That's right. Hello, everyone. Welcome back. I am so excited to be here with you tonight. I'm Sarah Mislowski with the channel Moving to Georgia, helping you answer all the questions about moving to Georgia. And tonight I've got a really great special guest with me. Welcome, Matt Lunden. Matt, how are you?
I'm great. How are you, Sarah?
I am awesome. Thank you for being here with us tonight. Y'all, Matt is a fantastic Keller Williams agent that covers the coastal Delaware area. And Matt and I have just been here talking about the type of people or where in the country you get people that are moving to Delaware.
Yeah.
So where are you most seeing people that are reaching out to you to move to Delaware?
Yeah, we get a lot of people, I think, kind of similar places you probably get them from: New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania. We get some from Florida coming back up here that have already moved south. But really, our neighboring states are not too cheap to live in.
Yeah.
So Delaware is pretty tax friendly as far as property taxes go. And we see a lot of those folks looking to come here to save a little bit as they approach, retirement age and that kind of stuff.
So I thought we had really good property taxes here in Georgia until I had a conversation with you.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit more about the property taxes in Delaware.
Yeah, so we've Sussex County, which is the county that I'm in, is like one of the 5 lowest property tax rates in the country. So your average home, like a $500,000 home, you're probably only paying like $1,500 for the year for property taxes. So it's pretty incredible.
That is incredible. And so, typically here in Georgia, on that same price point of home, you're looking at maybe close to 2,800 to 3,000. So we're a little bit double that.
Yeah.
I actually saw that Hawaii was one of the lowest property tax states in all of the country, which was shocking to me.
Yeah. I feel like cost of living in Hawaii probably balances that out though, because it's pretty expensive otherwise there, right? I mean,
yeah, but it makes me wonder, do they have good schools? Because, a large part of the property taxes goes to cover schools, and you would think that they would need to collect a lot of property taxes to cover those expenses. I don't know how that
true.
works.
Yeah, the bulk of our property taxes, same thing. So the bulk of our property taxes is actually the school tax. So a large majority of it is.
Yeah. So tonight on the channel, we are covering what the rest of the nation is covering is our houses becoming unaffordable. What are interest rates doing, and how are they having an impact on the affordability of houses? It is. It's a rough ride out there right now, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, I mean, if anybody watched the news yesterday or today, Chairman Powell came out with what we were all thinking. Inflation's not in check. So what is that going to mean for interest rates in the future? And, what's it going to do to home prices? It's certainly a question that I think a lot of people are currently asking.
Yeah, it's really frustrating because if you go back, 4 weeks ago, interest rates were falling, and we were getting down into the low sixes, and even for a blip there, we were in the high fives and celebrating.
I think for about an hour we hit 5.99. I think for a little bit there.
Yeah, and then along comes this great economic news, or what you would think would be traditionally great economic news, that unemployment's at a record low.
Yep.
And then the Fed is like, hey, wait, our measures or what we're doing to stamp inflation is not working as well as what we thought. We've got to squash this. And so then the Fed is, here we are, they're raising the Fed interest rate, and it's having that direct impact on mortgage rates.
Yeah, it's kind of a backwards metric. It's like people are employed, that's a bad thing. It's like it doesn't equal out. But I mean, it kind of makes sense. If that many people are employed and we're reaching record low unemployment, there's a lot of money still in the market. So people are still spending money, regardless of what interest rates and stuff are. People are still going out. They're still dining out and entertaining and all that kind of stuff. So it definitely has taken an interesting toll on where housing is going to go from here.
Yeah, definitely. So if you're joining us on the live stream, I've got Matt Lunden here with me, an excellent agent that covers coastal Delaware, and we are talking about our home prices becoming unaffordable. So if you're joining us, please let me know in the chat where you're watching from. I'm excited to talk to you. Our goal here tonight is to answer all of your questions that you may have about the real estate market, what's going on with interest rates. And so we're just going to dive a little bit deeper into how interest rates are affecting affordability for the clients that we are directly working with, and kind of how we're seeing that play out in real time. So one of the biggest factors of kind of that goes into measuring inflation was how well the real estate market is doing. And January was actually a better month in the real estate market than it had been in November and December. And that was one of the things that kind of got factored into those inflation numbers, that caused the increase was we had a strong January in the housing market. And you would think that would, again, be opposite of kind of like rooting for a bad housing market. It doesn't quite make sense. It's hard to put it all together.
Yeah, and we're at kind of a weird point too. Like typically, historically speaking, at least, when interest rates have gone up, so has inventory. But we're at
Right.
this kind of weird position where interest rates are increasing and inventory is still decreasing. So it's not necessarily following the same historical trends that we have seen past. So it's definitely a strange time, and it's certainly taken a toll on some folks for sure.
100%. And we are feeling that here in the Metro Atlanta area, that inventory is at an all-time low. And that is something that is frustrating, because you would think, and I've had several clients reach out to me that think that they're just going to wait for the housing market to crash and for all the inventory to make its way to the market and to get like this really great deal on a house. And, you try to give people the best information and the data that you're seeing or that I'm seeing, and coach them through that. And at the end of the day, they're going to make the decision that's best for them.
Sure.
And yet here we are, day in and day out. I'm trying to find houses for clients and show them more than just a handful of options. And inventory is just still so incredibly low. And I'm not feeling or seeing any substantial price decreases at all in the Metro Atlanta area market. What are you seeing, Matt?
Yeah, we've seen multiple offers come back. So I had one this past weekend. We wrote on it. We were one of 5. So it's kind of back to those, you got to write it highest and best. It's like I said, you'd think inventory would be increasing just because rates are increasing and it might take some people out of the market, but it just doesn't seem to be happening that way. We're starting to see a lot more people come back into the market with cash as well. So those interest rates don't really play an effect on them. A lot of those folks, like you said, are waiting for, maybe some bubble to burst and the prices to come crashing down. But the reality is I don't think that's going to happen, just because there's so many people with positive equity currently that if something were to happen, they could just sell their home. They don't necessarily have to worry about a foreclosure situation.
Yeah, 100%. And, another thing that we're kind of waiting on too, those economic indicators that would cause a surge in inventory, foreclosures as a result of losing jobs or layoffs, higher unemployment, like those things just aren't happening in the real estate market to cause the higher inventory, to cause the home prices to come down. So we're kind of like stuck in this hamster wheel,
Yeah.
trying to get out of it to get the interest rates down to make it more affordable so that people can actually buy the houses. But then we also need houses available for them to buy as well.
Yeah. And I think too, with Chairman Powell's address last night and how, inflation is not really in check yet. So their plan is to continue hiking rates, which is going to, again, probably drive mortgage interest rates higher. And the unfortunate consequence is some people are probably going to lose their jobs at some point. It's just a matter of how many, I think, because there's going to be a point where businesses can't afford to keep paying people more. And I think that will have a little bit of an effect on bringing inflation down, but I still don't think it's going to, have any crazy big, market-wide effect on housing. I think there may be pockets where a lot of those employment issues, do come about. But I think that, market-wide, there's not going to be like a 50% crash or anything. 08's not going to repeat itself because there's so much positive equity in the market already that, if you do get into a financial dire strait, you can just, again, sell your home. You don't have to worry about having the bank come in and take it from you.
Definitely. So we've got Carla joining us. Hey, Carla. We also have Charles joining us tonight. Thank you so much for
joining guys
on the live stream. So we're talking about like what we're seeing, and I want to share with y'all at home what we're actually seeing in the articles that you're reading, right? So let's kind of dig into some of these articles that are coming across your feed, that you're seeing them on the news. And so we'll dive into this article here from Yahoo News, saying that housing confidence craters once more as mortgage rates spike. And so it goes on to say that Fannie Mae's gauge of housing sentiment dropped 3.8 points in February to 58. And that overall 44% of consumers reported that it's a bad time to sell. And that was up from 39% last month. And at the same time, it said 24% of respondents expressed concern about losing their job in the next 12 months. That was up from 18%. So people are starting to kind of get fearful from the headlines that they're seeing and kind of maybe what they're feeling as well.
One thing I did see too, kind of a crazy stat. So 99% of current mortgage holders, their rate is less than 6%. So a lot of those people that I personally think would have, if you're in a situation where your house might start to feel a little tight, or maybe somebody's moved out of the home or something like that, where you would just move down the street or whatever, a lot of those people now are just staying put and modifying the house to their lifestyle. So in this area, we've seen a lot of renovation business and a lot of, construction businesses start to really take off because those people are staying tight and modifying the home instead of just moving down the street or moving to the neighborhood over where they may have found a home before that fit their needs. Now they're just changing the home to fit their needs.
100%. And so like I am that demographic right now. So my husband and I are going through a renovation. If you watched from the beginning of the show here, you heard my dogs barking. We're living in my basement right now. So they're literally like just outside the door, and it was dinner time. And me being in the real estate industry, I see houses all the time. And yet with home prices increasing, seeing that day in and day out, it kind of became a decision for us of like, we wanted a nicer house. And so then it became, okay, well, do you go out and buy one, or do we renovate the house that we currently have? Renovating right now is really expensive still. And yet even evaluating the amazing rate that we were able to refinance to, during the pandemic, we have an interest rate less than 3%. And so for us to sell our house, even with the equity that we would make from the sale of our house, to then go out and buy a house and get a new house with an interest rate of 7% right now. That's crazy. It's so much more expensive.
7.1 I saw. So yeah.
I mean, so for us, it was like, okay, yeah, we're digging our heels in at this house, and let's go ahead and bite the bullet and renovate and make it to exactly what we want, because it's going to be a really hard scenario for us to give up this great interest rate that we have. And so part of the reason that we're experiencing, like you said, this housing crunch or of inventory, lack of inventory, or all these people that otherwise would have gotten into a better neighborhood or a better school district, they want a bigger yard or they want an extra bedroom, and they're saying it's just not worth it. It's not worth paying that, that higher interest rate and paying a lot more for that house.
Yeah, I think too, you've got the, consideration there that if you're in a house, whatever the price was when you got in, and say you did get in at a low 3% rate, if you want something in the same neighborhood, you might not be able to afford it anymore. Your debt to income might become too high because of that change in monthly payment. So if you're enjoying your neighborhood and you're like, oh yeah, I'd move down the street, you might not be able to afford the house down the street anymore because of the change in interest rate.
100%. And then also you would have to, in order for that debt to income ratio work out, your income would also have to have risen at the same level. And we know that that's not really
mostly
happening.
not true.
Yeah, it's mostly not true unless you're like, what is it, job hacking, where you quit your job and you go to a different employer every year and a half, 2 years.
Right.
That's a trend I saw on TikTok. So I don't know if people are doing that.
Yeah, it's definitely, it's kind of put a weird, like I said, weird spin on the market. As we've talked here, a lot of times people would just modify their living situation. They would move to a house down the street, whereas now they're staying put and just modifying the home.
So the houses that we are seeing on the market, I just met with a seller today, and the reason that they're selling the house is that they are moving north. They're moving to Michigan, from Georgia to Michigan, to take care of family members. So you're always going to have people, you're always going to have death, you're always going to have divorce, you're always going to have, people getting married, first-time home buyers, people having babies where they just simply have to have more space, and modifying is not an option.
Absolutely.
So you're always going to have those people, those sellers that's kind of the inventory that we have right now in the market, are people that kind of fit that criteria, or that people that are relocating for jobs that are kind of forcing them to move.
Yeah, we're seeing a lot of the same thing.
I don't know of anyone recently that's selling just because they want to sell their house.
Yeah, it seems like a lot of the sellers and buyers right now are all forced into that position. They're not getting, it's not necessarily a choice anymore. It's because of one of those items that, they're not just saying, okay, yeah, we'll just go down the street or anything like that. It's, okay, my job is bringing me here, or my job is taking me away from here, or I've got family elsewhere that I need to go see, or we just had a kid, one of those big things where you can't just modify, something small in the home, like a kitchen or something like that. You've actually got to like build additions, and, that's when it becomes more expensive to do that way.
Yeah. Madison, a local viewer here says that she just tried buying a house in Winder, which is a nearby town in the suburbs of Metro Atlanta. and she just gave up. She said, trying to get a fixer upper for a good price in a good area feels impossible right now. Everyone's asking way over value, and the interest rate that was quoted, 7.25%, crazy competitive, offered on a Sunday, and they had 5 other offers by Monday, offered way over asking. The house was worth way less than asking. So hard for first-time home buyers. Yeah, I really feel for first-time home buyers. It is
Competitive.
almost impossible because you're also likely in that price point competing with investors as well.
Yeah.
Sounds like that's what you were competing with, or people that were either going to buy the house and turn it into a rental, maybe someone that thought that they could turn around and flip it. A lot of those times, those investors, they have cash to throw at the problem, and that's also going to look much more appealing to a seller as well.
Especially first-time home buyers, if they have, low percentage down, which there's nothing wrong with, putting
Right.
3 or 5% down on a home by any means. But when you're the seller looking at that, if you see somebody putting 60% down or 50% down, you just think they're in a stronger financial situation. So their loan is less likely to fall through if they are getting financing.
Yeah. So, gosh, this is like such a tough position to be in, Madison, and I so empathize with you. And I think if I were in your shoes right now, I think I would do everything I could to get myself into a home and become a homeowner and play that long game. Be in it for a couple of years, get yourself in a situation where you can refinance whenever rates go down, that you're building that equity, and that this may not be your forever home. Obviously, it's like the starter home, like something to just get you in the ball game, so that then in a couple of years you can sell it and then use that equity that you've made to then go out and buy that house that you really want. Because the hard part is that if we continue to rent, which sometimes that's our only option, but if we continue to rent, I don't think that home prices a couple of years down the road, a year and a half, 2 years down the road, I don't think it's going to be any easier. I think it's, at least here in the metro Atlanta area, it's still going to be so incredibly hard to be a first-time home buyer. And that
Yeah, I mean,
bar
you guys are
is just gonna
growing
be-
at a pretty rapid rate too. So it's not like, people aren't all of a sudden going to stop moving to Atlanta. It's not like it's a small city. People are going to be moving there, nonstop. So I don't think it's getting any easier anytime soon,
Yeah, and
unfortunately.
the area that she was talking about is kind of like a smaller town in the outskirts of the metro suburbs. But it's becoming such a destination for people trying to find that affordable home.
Right.
And so even those areas are becoming unaffordable.
Sure.
And I bought a rental house there a year and a half ago, and I was able to get it for under 200. You can't find a home in Winder anymore for under 200,000. Heck, even 250,000. It's hard to find a property there. So that's just why I share with you that it's really hard. And hopefully, Madison, you're working with a really great agent. If you're not, reach out. We would love to talk with you and kind of give you some more advice and guidance and help you in that. Of course, if you're in a brokerage agreement with your real estate agent, not trying to solicit you, but make sure you're getting taken care of.
Yeah, Madison, I would say too, just to consider maybe looking at some homes that have been sitting on the market a little bit longer. They might not be the prettiest, but might be something out there that you can maybe get some seller help or something on.
100%. And I know that townhomes, at least here, kind of get a bad rap. People don't want to be in a townhome because they kind of equate that to kind of apartment style living. You're sharing walls with others. I think it's a great way to get your foot into the real estate market, and it may
Absolutely.
not be the ideal situation, but you're not paying someone else's rent. You're building equity in something that you own, and you're becoming a homeowner. You're getting the tax advantages. And so that might be a possible solution.
Doesn't have to be forever.
Yeah. What does the first time home buyer market look like in your area? And
Yeah, so it's tough. The main markets that I cover are the first time home buyers are pretty much priced out. Our starter homes in this area start at like 500. So it's
okay.
not cheap. You have to go a little bit on the out, because I live in a beach town. So you have to go outside those beach towns to find something that's, unless you're in a condo situation, which most people don't really necessarily want to be in a condo,
Right.
even more so than a townhome. But yeah, it's you definitely have to start, moving out of the main hub. Maybe if one town is where you want to be, maybe you got to look 15, 20 minutes outside of that town to find something that actually works and you can afford. It's definitely been a wild ride for a lot of first time home buyers, just because there is nothing on the market. And typically the price point they're looking in is a price point that a lot of people can afford. So even those people that have a pre-approval that says, 500,000, they may only want to spend 350 because they're more comfortable with that monthly payment. So now you're competing with somebody whose pre-approval goes much higher. And it's just been, kind of a weird time for first-time home buyers. And I feel terrible for them. I think home buying or being a homeowner should be, one of everybody's main priorities, but it's not become very easy for those folks that are trying to buy their first one.
Yeah, definitely hard. Anthony, longtime watcher and client. I feel like we're in a catch-22. No one really wants new something due to rate volatility and can't lock rates. Resale inventory stays low because folks have those low rates. Something's got to give soon. Yeah. So I think,
Yeah, with new, so I think the maybe new construction there, because you can't obviously lock your rate with new construction until you're closer to the completion of that project. So I had this happen. I had clients that signed a contract it was February of 2022. They signed the contract. They close next month. So full like 14 months when they signed that.
Can you imagine?
When they signed that contract, their rate was 3.5%. Wow. Their rate now is 7 whatever percent we're at. So that home that they're buying, it's become a lot less affordable for them. But their other alternative was, you had to put 10% down on new construction. So their other alternative was walking away from 10% of $600,000 home. That's not exactly an easy thing to do.
Right. Yeah. And so hopefully that something's got to give soon. I mean, obviously what the Fed is hoping is that home prices come down, that employers stop hiring, that prices come down. And, one of those things have to happen. I mean, definitely home prices, we are seeing that on the West Coast in California. There's definitely homes are having a hard time, selling out that way. So hopefully that will have a trickle down effect in the market. And typically it does.
Are you starting to see homes sit on the market longer where you guys are, or are they still getting gobbled up pretty quick?
Oh, so that's a great question. So kind of like what Madison was saying, it depends on the price point in the area. So we had clients, and I shared this story last week on the live stream, that both houses that they were super interested in was multiple offers. And so thankfully we were able to win the one from them last week. And it was something that if it's in a good area, if it shows well, so both of these houses, you could tell that the seller took a really great care of their house.
Sure.
There was great photos. It was staged well. The house wasn't full of clutter. It didn't need a whole lot of repairs. And it was in a good area, priced right. And that is what caused the seller to be able to get $20,000, $25,000 more for the sale of that home than what they listed it for. And then yet the opposite scenario, I just had another buyer that we got under contract that we negotiated $20,000 off the price because the seller had overpriced it.
Sure.
So, it all kind of comes down to the pricing of what that agent puts the initial time in. I don't know if you're experiencing this in your market, but sometimes we still have some unrealistic sellers that think that their house is worth way more than what it actually is worth.
I've got two of them.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely, obviously everybody's got some sentimental value around their home. So they think it's worth more than, even the most realistic seller probably is a little bit on the high side of what it should be listed at. But, it's tough getting through to them sometimes, but it can definitely be a challenge. But if you got to just frame it to where if you price it right, more than likely you're going to get better terms just because you're going to have more offers. So it's interesting.
Brandon Blankenship dropping in here on the live stream. He's saying that he loves Georgia. Brandon is a really great real estate agent that covers the Chicago area. So if you're thinking about moving from Chicago to Georgia or to Delaware, Brandon is a really great agent to reach out to help you there.
Back to what was the name? Madison was the first time home buyer. Right. Madison. Brandon has specialized in the what's he call it? The granny special. He bought a fixer-upper home that nobody else wanted and decided to fix it up himself. So that's how he got into the home. I think he just bought it 2 months ago or something. So
yeah, I love that term. And I've used that phrase granny special quite a bit ever since I heard it. And then I realized my husband and we bought a granny special.
Right.
And unlike Brandon, where he turned around and fixed it up in 2 months, we've lived in our house for 7 years before we decided to renovate the granny special.
And he did most of the work himself, I think, with his dad, which is even crazier.
Yeah, that is crazy. Paul asked, how is North Atlanta market compared to Vegas, Phoenix, and San Francisco? Will Atlanta follow them, as we have a lot of investors in our market and they can liquidate at any time? So I don't know the exact numbers in Vegas, Phoenix, or San Francisco, but what I do know is that the Metro Atlanta market is one of kind of like the anomalies for the real estate market right now. We still have a lot of people relocating and moving into the Atlanta area for job relocations. We have a lot of people that live in those areas and in Florida and New York and New Jersey that are wanting to come down here because it's more affordable. The taxes are lower. They can get a much bigger house. And so, a lot of these people have amazing equity in the homes that they're selling in these areas. And so they're either paying cash for a house or they're only financing a very small amount for their new home that they're getting. And so that is really insulating our market here in the Metro Atlanta area. That, coupled with really low inventory, we're just not seeing a surge in inventory come anytime soon, and we're not seeing the types of price decreases that they have been seeing on the West Coast. Atlanta had a strong investor market as well. 30% of the houses that were bought over the past couple of years were bought by investors. A lot of those are rentals, and these investors are not turning around and putting this inventory on the market. If they were, Madison would have more opportunities for houses right now. And they're not putting these houses on the market because there's a strong demand for rental houses as well, because people like Madison are having a hard time finding the house that they want to go buy for a first-time home buyer, and they're kind of they're stuck in the middle there. They want to be able to afford a house, but they can't, and so they're going to continue to rent. So comparatively, I think the Metro Atlanta area is very strong. The National Association of Realtors named Atlanta as the top Metro Atlanta market for real estate in 2023. Definitely kind of feeling that. And I feel like we could help a lot more people move here if we could just get more inventory.
Seems to be the key everywhere. Is inventory is still very low and is approaching historical lows. I know we saw some points in the last couple of years where it dipped lower than it currently is, but we're starting to get close to those numbers again. We've seen more homes go under contract than come on the market just about every week. So we're clearing inventory, not adding inventory.
Yeah. 100%. And we are seeing that here. Like, the inventory just keeps dropping.
Yeah.
And so the conversations that I'm having currently with buyers that are looking for houses here is that even though we're seeing a little bit more seasonality, so we're seeing like the traditional little bit of a spring surge of houses coming on the market, those good ones are getting snatched up very quickly. Yeah. And so, if I see a good one come across, I'm like, okay, we got to get in and see this today or tomorrow, because it's going to go multiple offers, because this is a good one and everything else out there is just kind of a dud right now.
Yeah, there was a lull there, kind of November, December, where buyers felt like they had a little more time. They didn't necessarily have to go right away, but we're kind of back at that point where if you see a home come on the market, you probably need to be in it in the first weekend. Otherwise, you're probably not getting that home.
Yeah. Leonardo says that they have a household income of around $400,000 a year, and we have 6 figures in savings. Yet I still feel like buying a home right now is not really worth my money. Yeah, and I guess I would kind of say to that, my advice would be, it really depends on the market that you're in and what those home prices are and what that kind of like long-term growth is expected to look like in the area. It's definitely kind of a hard decision to navigate right now if you have the freedom and flexibility of to buy or not to buy. And I guess it depends on like if you're renting and kind of what the long-term plans are. How would you advise someone in that situation, Matt?
Yeah, I guess for Mr. Leonardo here, it definitely depends on the market you're in. 400 grand in certain places is a lot. 400 grand in San Francisco probably doesn't get you very far. So it definitely depends on where you're at. But if you're renting right now, I guess it just depends on what your living situation is and where your rent number is. If you're comfortable with your rent, I guess, hang tight until the end of your lease and then figure it out. If you're trying to figure out if you want to buy and your lease is approaching the end, unfortunately, I don't think housing is going to get any cheaper. So if you've got the savings like you say you have, buying may be your better option, because if interest rates do come down like we think they do, we think they will, then you can, assuming you still qualify, you can refinance into that lower rate and lower your monthly payment that way. But at least you'll be building equity in the meantime. Whereas if you're renting, you're just paying somebody else's mortgage at that point.
Yeah, Leonardo made a follow-up comment saying that regardless, he's under contract for a home in Beaufort. Leonardo, why didn't you call me to help you find that spot? That's what I'm here for.
Come
That's
on,
why
man.
I'm providing all this great information for you. No, but seriously, if you are, excuse me, if you are looking to move to the Metro Atlanta area, I want to be your real estate agent. So my contact information is below this video, and I would love the opportunity to help you. Matt is serving the Coastal Delaware area. So if you are in that area, if you have a house to sell because you want to move to Georgia,
Give me a
definitely
call.
reach out to Matt, and he can help serve you in that area as well. So we appreciate you. Yeah, Leonardo says, haha, I just found you guys. Next time, planning to invest in real estate soon. Awesome. We'd love to help you with that. And we help a lot of investor clients as well. So I appreciate it definitely as well. So have you had any buyers, Matt, that you've been working with? Oh, Leonardo's in Chicago. So Leonardo, if you have a home to sell in Chicago or any investment properties to
We got a guy.
We got a guy. Brandon for you in that area. So my question to you, Matt, is that have you had any buyers that you were trying to help find a home, maybe a first-time home buyer or something like that, that's pulled out of the market, or they just said, okay, this simply just cannot work for us anymore?
Yeah, I mean, we've got most of my clients are relocation clients. They're coming from other areas. A lot of them are either waiting to take a retirement package from work or something similar. And those some of those folks have just said, I'm going to work for another 6 months and just kind of see where it goes and hang tight. They might have an affordable payment on their current home because their interest rate is lower and they were just moving to the beach because it's where they want to retire to. So a lot of those folks are like, we're just going to pump the brakes for a little bit. There's some uneasiness amongst the media and everybody else. So I've had a couple clients that have backed out or just said, hey, call us in 6 months. We'll talk then and figure it out. But we're just a little bit weary of where things are going.
Yeah. So one of the conversations that I'm having with clients right now, based on a really great conversation I had with the lender yesterday, and after kind of like looking and taking in all this data, the Fed has already announced that they're going to have at least another rate hike.
At least one.
Right. At least one. And so, depending upon the economic news that comes out, there's going to be some more. So we know for certain that these interest rates are going to increase again. And my mortgage people are saying, yeah, it's likely they're going to continue to increase, and they're probably not going to settle back down until, end of third quarter, fourth quarter of this year. And so I've had a lot of clients that say, hey, I have the freedom and flexibility. I can move now, or I can move over the summer, but for sure we want to be there by the fall. And so I'm calling up those people. I'm like, hey, if we can get into a house now, it's really going to be much more affordable for you interest rate wise.
Right.
And so we need to have that conversation of let's see if we can get into a house now.
Yeah, I think the challenge too there is, as inventory continues to creep lower, supply and demand, I mean, that's just going to push prices higher despite where interest rates go. I mean, if you only have, again, I don't know how many homes are in the market, by you, but in my entire county, when I looked this morning, we had less than 900 homes in the market. So that number is typically about 3,500, just to give you perspective of where it should be. So even if interest rates are high, which they kind of are, when you have that few homes on the market and people are looking to move the area still, they're going to keep the prices elevated, if not going higher, because now they're willing to pay a little bit more because there is so few on the market and they want to get down here.
Right. Sharon made the comment, thanks for watching and joining us, Sharon, that you've been looking in Cobb County and it's very expensive. Yes, that is an expensive suburb of the Metro Atlanta area. And, I always encourage clients to reach out and let's have that conversation of like what your budget is. And oftentimes we can kind of carve out areas that maybe you haven't quite considered or that are kind of nearby. Maybe you're going to have to compromise on something, but maybe we can find you a little bit more options of inventory to kind of give you some more options in that area and kind of give you the best of both worlds. And so we would love to connect with you, and you can reach me. My contact information is below this video. Matt, I'm just interested to hear or see, do y'all have a lot of new construction in your area?
Tons.
Okay. And are you seeing any discounts or incentives from builders, or is there an opportunity there for new construction?
I had a client reach out to me this morning. We were looking at a couple different builders, and they said, it's funny. I was looking at this builder and I really like this neighborhood, and I saw all of a sudden they offered a bigger incentive. And I was like, well, yeah, kind of depending on where the market's going, and that just tells you where their confidence is. And then the next text message was, but I saw they raised their base price when they gave a bigger incentive.
Okay.
So it was kind of like they didn't actually do anything other than just cancel out how much they raised their base prices by. But yeah, I mean, the incentives have changed a little bit each month. I think you're starting to see some, like I know DR Horton for a while was offering a certain rate that you could get if you use their financing. So they had bought the rate down for X number of buyers. The tough part about the new construction right now, like we said before, is that you can't lock your rate. So that's where a lot of people, incentives are great off the start. Maybe you get 50 grand in free upgrades or whatever it is. But if you're not going to be done building for 14 or 18 months, what's your rate going to look like at that point? You hope it comes down. We think, by every indicator that we look at, it should be lower in that time frame, but obviously we don't have a crystal ball.
Yeah.
So it's definitely been an interesting time for new construction for sure.
So the inventory here in Metro Atlanta is a little bit different. We have some builders like Toll Brothers who build, pretty much, pick your lot and then you build. They have like a handful of inventory homes. And so their build time has been, between, 10 to 12 months.
Sure.
And yet we have a lot of builders like DR Horton, Pulte, those types of builders and communities where they kind of only build that spec inventory. Or they're only releasing lots and they know that these homes are going to be finished in the next 90 days or so. And depending upon where in the Metro Atlanta area has really kind of dictated how much of an incentive and a deal these builders are offering. So, for a lot of people, that's kind of an opportunity that you have to look in whatever area you're considering exploring. Is there an opportunity for new construction in that area, and which builders are offering those better incentives?
Yeah, I will say the spec builder or the more of the inventory builder, we've definitely seen better incentives from them. I think big leap, the big part of that is they realize, hey, we've got 12 homes that are getting ready to be finished and we don't have any buyers for these things. We need to, clear the inventory and just get whatever we can out of them. And I've seen some that have slashed prices on a couple homes, pretty significantly.
Yeah.
And those are just more like attention grabbers. So they get somebody in the door.
Right.
It might not be the best lot or it might not be the best, home in the
They're
community.
always next to a retention pond.
Or looks at power lines or something crazy. Like
it backs up to the main road, or it's like the very first house in the neighborhood.
Exactly. Yeah. But I mean, so a lot of those inventory builders we're starting to see slash some prices just to get people in the door. Mm-hmm. But anybody that's, more of a custom builder, I guess we'll call them.
Yeah.
They're not really doing as much because they realize that when you sign, so much can happen. And as we've seen, so much can happen in the next time frame between not only when you sign the contract, but just from when they start building to when you're actually complete. A lot could happen in that window.
Yeah, that's true. Leonardo asked a good question about Beaufort. So Beaufort is a suburb north of Metro Atlanta in North Gwinnett County. It's actually where my office is that I drive to every single day. And he's asking, are homes around downtown Beaufort desirable and worth purchasing? I'm noticing you have a lot of new constructions next to kind of a lot of homes that maybe aren't in the best shape. And so it's always important to make sure that you're connected with someone local that knows the area, because it is a very desirable area. Beaufort, those houses are in Beaufort City Schools, which is one of the most desirable school districts in all of Georgia. If you drive just down the road, you are going to see an amazing high school that a lot of people from out of state, when they drive by, they think that's a college, and it's a high school. It's beautiful new campus, and millions and millions and millions of dollars were spent here, and they've got amazing football facilities and all that kind of good stuff, and great in sports. And so it's one of the top ranked school districts in all of Georgia. And so it's very sought out because of that. And so that is the reason why you are seeing, because it's such a small geographic area, there's not hardly anywhere left to put houses. And so you're seeing new construction homes going next to kind of like tear downs, or people that have owned those houses for 50 years. And so you kind of have like a mixture there. And so it's why you can have a $700,000 house next to a $300,000 house, and it's going to appraise without any problem. And that builder's not going to have any problem selling that $700,000 house. But yeah, so it's definitely desirable.
Builders kind of are padded from appraisals a little bit. They control the market within their own neighborhood for the most part, because they're the ones setting the prices. Obviously, the market has to be receptive of that price. But if people are buying the home, regardless of what's going on, they kind of set the price for the community. So the appraisal won't be the issue. It's just a matter of whether or not you like the area at that point.
Yeah. Charles says, first timer folks, wait 2 years to buy a home. There will be a new administration. Yeah, so
Could be.
could be. And, nobody has a magic 8 ball. And yet, home prices have continued to increase, since the previous administration.
Yeah.
So, we had a change in administration and that didn't cause home prices to go down. And yet, if you're a seller, do you want the value of your house to go down? Because then if you're on the flip side of that, so it's just so hard. It's so hard to know exactly.
I will say typically, again, this is not one party or the other.
Yeah.
Typically in election years, interest rates and economies get better. Just historically speaking, typically that election year. So, hopefully by 2024, we see some relief and those interest rates do come back down.
Yeah. And that would be amazing for everybody, right? So hopefully we can get more buyers into houses. Hopefully there's more houses out there on the market. It's kind of a weird conundrum because selling houses when the interest rate was historically low was rough on real estate agents. You know, a lot of people, I think I've had some viewers here like, oh, real estate agents, they made bank, or I get comments on my videos that say like, oh, you're just in it for the money. And, you just collected an easy paycheck.
Give me 2019 back.
It was not easy.
Yeah.
And even 2019, there's more inventory in 2019 than what there is today.
Absolutely.
And so, it's kind of like we're going from one hard to a different type of hard, because we still have a lot of people like Madison who want to buy a house and it's still incredibly hard.
Yeah, it's tough.
Home prices are up and inventory is down and interest rates are up. So definitely hard. This viewer says that they're getting the home built by Liberty Communities that are offering a 4.85% interest rate and $7,000 towards closing costs. And it's a fixed rate and locked until 5/3. I'm just concerned that our home won't be complete. Yeah, I would be on the phone every day with checking in with the builder or your agent.
You're under contract with them. They're giving you the rate, but they're not going to have the home complete in time.
Well, so a common incentive that we're seeing here is that we're seeing builders or their lenders say, we'll guarantee this rate if you close on a home by a certain date. And so I'm sure that the builder has told them that they're going to be able to close by that date. And yet, sometimes there's closing delays or
something happens.
The concrete didn't get poured because there was so much rain.
It rained that day, right? Yep.
Yeah. So I would just really, communicate with the agent, whoever's helping you with that. That's why you want to have a really great agent on your side that's helping you through that. Hopefully you have one of those and I would stay on them. And I would, preemptively maybe go ahead and have that conversation with the lender of saying, what options are there if for whatever reason the home is not complete.
Yeah, I'd say for May 3rd too, we're about 60 days, just under 60 days away from that. They should have a pretty good idea at this point if they're going to reach that date.
Yeah.
Because everything's under roof. I mean, at this point, they're inside working. So they should have a pretty good idea if that's even possible or not.
Good point. Yeah. If they're not already to the drywall stage, typically all builders that I work with, once they get to drywall, they're 60 days out.
Right.
That's kind of like a good measure. So if they have drywall up, you should be, tracking on pace to hit that closing date. This viewer says, my wife and I bought a home from you in Suwannee about 2 years ago. Glad we got in when we did. We are also interested in undeveloped land in the area. Have you seen any trends there? So that is a really good point or something that I want to talk about. So at least in our area, and I'm sure you experience the same thing, Matt, is that there is a lot of demand for new construction houses. Builders are trying incredibly hard to get their hands on any piece of land that they can or tracts of land to build multiple houses on.
Yep.
So good pieces of land are typically bought out by builders. And then like Leonardo mentioned earlier, we have a lot of builders that will just build kind of like one-off houses in good areas and build them as spec houses because they know that they can sell them.
Sure.
If there's a piece of land that's for sale that has not been bought by a builder yet, or someone yet, I would look at it incredibly closely.
There's something wrong with it.
Yeah, usually there's something wrong, or it's going to be really difficult to build on, or there's something next to it that makes it undesirable.
Yep. There's a reason for sure.
Yeah, definitely. So I'm helping some really great clients build on a lot in a neighborhood, and it's like one remaining lots in the neighborhood. It has amazing view of Lake Lanier. And the challenge of this lot is that it looks kind of scary because it's got some steepness to it. And so it's going to require an additional expense in the building process because we're going to have to pour some, I don't know what the term is, like extra high foundation walls, basement walls, sub walls. Maybe that's what they're called. I'll say sub walls. It sounds good. And so there's going to be a little bit of extra cost involved there, but yet they know that the end game is going to be worth it. And they're willing to do that because they want to have this amazing view. And a lot of builders probably said, oh, our margins just probably don't work out as well to build on this because we're going to have to turn around and sell it and make a profit. And these buyers are like, hey, this is going to be like one of our forever houses.
Right.
So it makes sense for us to do it. So I would just, we can help you research this a little bit more. So reach out to me and we'll get you on the hunt for some other pieces of land that might be not that case. But I would just really study something extra hard if it's been on the market. Now, if it's like a brand new piece of land to the market, then, that's a new opportunity. But if it's been on the market for a while, usually there's a reason.
And if you've got an idea of the area too, a lot of times you can hone in on, what generalized area you're looking at. And if you do a lot of pre-research on that area, you can figure out a lot of the information that you need. And then when a lot does come on the market, you can pounce on it versus a builder still having to do a lot of that research.
Yeah. Truly Blessed says they just put down the foundation on her home.
I got some bad news for Truly Blessed. I do not think if they just poured the foundation, I don't think they're getting to your house by May 3rd.
Yeah, definitely have a phone call tomorrow and see what the lender can
check in on that.
Yeah, definitely. That is not good. So if you have any questions and you're watching us, I am Sarah Maslowski with Moving to Georgia on this channel, helping you relocate to Georgia and answering all your questions that you may have about the Georgia housing market, what's going on with interest rates and affordability here in Metro Atlanta. And then I've got Matt Lunden joining me. Matt serves the Costal Delaware area. And Matt, you have a channel here on YouTube. How can people find you?
Yeah, my channel is Living in Coastal Delaware. It's kind of similar to Sarah's. It talks about relocating to Delaware and what it's like to live, eat, breathe, sleep, and play right here in beautiful Coastal Delaware. But yeah, that's how Sarah and I know each other. So we kind of found each other through YouTube. It's pretty cool.
Yeah. So Matt's a really amazing agent. So we're here tonight answering your questions, and we'll take your questions for a few more minutes. And, the topic of today's live stream was like, are houses becoming unaffordable? And I wanted to dive into a little bit more data that a real estate company called Real Trends that like really studies the real estate market and data and stuff like that. I wanted to share with y'all an article that they put out and kind of like some of the data points that they're looking at that kind of covers what is going on in the real estate market and why we're kind of in this position and what is going to be ahead. So I'm going to get this pulled up here. So, and then we kind of talked about a lot of this, but homes continues to outpace inventory. So, Matt and I shared this, that we have a lot of demand for houses and the inventory just simply isn't there, which is one of the reasons why, home prices are kind of holding steady. So it says inventory falls again. You'll see here that, we had a peak of inventory kind of towards the end of 2022. And then ever since the beginning of 2023, inventory keeps falling. Houses keep getting bought up and we're not replacing those fast enough.
It seems like every time we have like 100 homes come on the market, say, I'm just using round numbers here, but it seems like every time we have 100 homes come on the market, it seems like 125 of them go under contract. So it's like, the numbers just aren't adding up to creating more inventory. It seems like they're going down.
Yeah. And this article goes on to say that there's no indication that inventory will surge. And so typically, we get that future inventory from a recession, job losses, investors offloading properties. It's not happening, in the Metro Atlanta area. You're not seeing that in Delaware, right?
No, I think the only thing that's really left the market, I guess I would say, is we're starting to see some home flippers kind of stay on the sideline just because there's some uncertainty for them. I think they don't want to, get caught in the wrong situation. But other than that, the market, there's still buyers out there that are looking for stuff and can't find it. And so that's kind of where, keeping prices is either at where they have been or slightly even elevated.
Yeah. And so I would say that in the Metro Atlanta area, flippers that flip houses, kind of like a one house a month, or maybe even like a one house every couple of months. I have a couple of investors that I work with that back in 2018, 2019, they bought, 5 or 6 houses a year to flip. Well, now to find a house where the numbers work, where they can get a deal on it and still flip it and make a profit on it and find that house and not compete with a first-time home buyer, it's incredibly difficult and hard.
Absolutely.
Because people are just paying a premium for these homes.
Yeah, especially the nature of, investing. Obviously, any buyer wants to get the home for the best price possible. But I think that's even amplified by investors because a lot of times they are paying cash. So they think that, hey, we can get a significantly reduced price, which you can't do if there's multiple offers on the property. It just doesn't work out.
Right. So in this article, it's saying that there's no evidence of a housing crash coming. They're saying that, if a big recession hits with job losses, that would be a risk factor that could slow housing dramatically. But again, all of these sellers or would-be sellers, if that happens, they have so much equity in their house, and there's still so much demand for these homes that we could easily match them up with the buyer in the market where it's a win-win for everyone. That the buyer gets a house and the seller gets to take their money that they have in their house and go rent.
Yeah, it's we're at kind of like we said before, it's kind of a weird situation because there's never been a time in history where this many would-be sellers, if something were to happen, that this many would-be sellers have as much positive equity as they do.
Yeah, never in the history.
So we just haven't seen this situation before where, part of that is because of how much prices have run up over the last 3 years. But it's, generated a lot of equity for these people to where if they get into a financial situation, they can sell their home even at a slightly discount off the current market price and still have plenty of cash left over.
Definitely. This article is saying that the percent of properties with price reductions, that has fallen. And, part of this is a little bit seasonality. So, if you see that this dark red line here, this is 2023. Well, in all the previous years, there was a little bit of a dip in January, February, March, right? Because that is when we see more inventory come on the market. That's also when we see most buyers that are in the market as well because of that spring selling season. But I would have to say that for sure here in the Metro Atlanta area, I feel like sellers or agents, whoever, like we're becoming a little bit more realistic with what you can sell a house for. And we're not seeing like as many kind of like overpriced houses sitting on the market.
Yeah, I think for a while there too, obviously we had the craziness 2021 and kind of the start of 2022 there for a while, where if your neighbor sold for 500, you could list your house for 575. It would sell in 4 hours. So like there was no really market for what you could list a price at or put your list price at. Where now that things have kind of normalized a little bit, we're starting to get a better handle on, where things are neighborhood wise or where they are, even subdivision wise, to where they're more accurately priced. I think for a while there, people were still trying to test the waters and push the envelope there a little bit. And they've just realized that it's not going to work and they're just going to chase the number down at that point. So if they price it right from the start, I think you're just going to see, more chance of multiple offers and that kind of stuff. And it just reduces your likelihood of having to reduce your rate or your price.
Yeah. Adler, who is watching us from Brazil. And it's super exciting. So he joined us on the live stream last week, and I had a chance to connect with him and his family today. And we're helping them with their relocation to the Metro Atlanta area. And so super excited to
That's awesome.
With you. And we're excited for you watching. So thank you for the kind words.
Is that your first international to Atlanta client?
No, we've had a handful before. We recently helped someone from Australia move, which that was super exciting.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
So we've had someone from Germany, Australia, and now this will be our first client from Brazil. So we're super excited about that.
You got to get a map in your office and start putting all the pins all over it.
Start getting those push pins.
Yeah.
Can you hear my dog right now barking?
You can hear a little bit.
Okay, yeah. So they're outside in the yard, and here in Georgia, maybe you have these in Delaware, we have a lot of deer.
Oh yeah. We don't have them here. We don't have them here at the beach much, but we do have deer.
Yeah. So this time of day, the dog's favorite thing to do is to go in the backyard. And that's when the deer are out there like munching on the grass or eating whatever they eat in the woods. And the deer are so desensitized to our dogs. They give no cares in the world about them. So they'll just bark their heads off at the deer. And
Sounds like kind of a small dog too, but probably thinks it's bigger than the world.
yes. Yeah. We have Toto Karen Terriers, like
Oh,
Toto
yeah.
from
Yeah.
Oz.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes. We have
Yeah.
3 of those. Do you have any dogs?
I do not. I do
You
not.
do have a child, so
I
that
do.
counts.
Yeah, that counts, I guess.
Yeah, that counts.
She's 6, so she probably acts a little bit more wild than pets do at times.
Yeah, definitely. Well, Matt, thank you so much for joining me
Yeah,
tonight.
thanks for having me. It's
Yeah,
been a
this was
pleasure.
super fun. So one more time, remind people that where you serve, the name of your channel, how they get in contact with you.
Yeah, I'm in bright and sunny Coastal Delaware. The name of my YouTube channel is Living in Coastal Delaware. Discusses everything, what it's like to eat, breathe, sleep, and play right here in Coastal Delaware. Look forward to seeing you guys more often. Hopefully Sarah has me back at some point, but it's been great. I'm glad that you guys are here. Hi from New Jersey. That's right next to me. So there you go.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was great. I'm glad that we did this.
Awesome. Yep. So if you have any needs in Delaware, Matt is your guy and he can take care of you. Obviously, if you're thinking about making a move here to Georgia, reach out. I would love to help you. My contact information is directly below this video. We put out a video every single Sunday here on the channel, and we are here most Wednesday nights right at 6 o'clock Eastern, answering all of your questions and updating you on the latest of what's going on in the real estate market. So thank you for joining us tonight, and we will see you back on the channel next week. Bye.
We will see everybody later.